Hi, welcome to another online yoga class with Anne. I'm experimenting here. It'll probably be, when I practice, it's about 10 minutes, so it'll probably be about a 15 to 20 minute practice here, me teaching you. I'm still experimenting with things. I do have a microphone on here. It's something that I bought last year to work with some of my online live yoga classes that I was experimenting with. So it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I think it's going to help a little bit with the sound. So we're going to try that today and see how that works for today's class. So today is not a chair yoga class. I got a lot of really good feedback on my chair yoga, and I plan to do another chair yoga that will be about the same amount of time as this video. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming soon. So still experimenting with camera, sound, and lighting. I think I got my camera set up a little bit better for the sequence I'm doing today. We aren't doing any wide leg standing poses, so that's going to help with the setup today. So we'll see how that goes. But I am working on experimenting with some stuff, so be patient. Things will be coming soon, hopefully. This takes a lot of time and planning, so this isn't an easy thing to do. I love doing it, but it is very time consuming. So I'm not posting videos because I don't want to. It's because it takes a lot of time planning, energy, and I want it to look halfway decent. If it doesn't look decent, you're not going to want to do the practice. So please keep that in mind. Before we get started today, just to remind you about being responsible for your own practice. You are always responsible for your practice. I'm going to lead you through with modifications, alignment cues, all of that, but you know what's best for your body. So you honor your body today, you honor it yesterday, you honor it tomorrow, because every day it feels different. So make sure that what we're doing is okay for you. If it's not okay, you come out of the pose. I want you to really pay attention to what your body needs today. And you decide if you come into a child's pose, you come into a tabletop, whatever it is that you need to do that your body is calling for. Maybe it's just to take a seat for a moment or two. That's all that you need to do. So don't ever force your body into any yoga pose. We never want to do that. Alignment is important, but this is about feeling good in our bodies and energizing ourselves. So again, if it doesn't feel okay, you don't do it. So the props that we're going to need today are a yoga block, and in my past video I actually mentioned that you could use books if you wanted to. So we're not going to use the block a lot, so you may not need it. You may want to use a blanket or a towel instead. And I have my yoga blanket here. But you could easily use a beach towel or a big bath towel. Either of those would work. And actually, for one of the things we're going to do, the towel blanket will work for instead of the block, if you so prefer. So I'm going to move back onto my mat and we will get started. So you're going to find a comfortable seat, maybe sitting on your block or your blanket or towel. And if you're sitting cross-legged, that's totally fine. That's actually my preference most of the time when I come into a seated position. But if for some reason sitting cross-legged is not okay for you, you can have the knees bent, feet on the mat. You can have your legs out long. You could have the soles of the feet together in Baddha Konasana. You could sit on your block. You could make other modifications if that's what you so choose. So we'll come into a comfortable seated position. Make sure that you can sit tall, that your torso is long, your chest is open, your pelvis isn't tucking under the body. So sometimes that's why it's a good idea to sit on something. We'll close our eyes or have a soft gaze and take a moment here to check in. Noticing your breath, taking in a full, long, deep inhale. And as you exhale, maybe letting out a sigh. Another full, deep inhale. And a long exhale. We'll allow the breath to come to a natural state. Noticing the rise and fall of the chest and the belly as you inhale and exhale. We'll slowly start to open our eyes, bringing our presence back to the room. We're going to inhale our arms up. And we're going to exhale down. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale up. Exhale down. Third one, we'll inhale up. Exhale down. I'm going to shift myself a little bit so that you can see that when we come into the side stretch, so we'll inhale up again 1 more time. On the exhale, let's bring our right hand down, left arm up and over, coming into a side stretch. You decide how close that hand is, how big the stretch is. The farther away the hand is, the bigger the stretch is. Make sure that that bottom shoulder is not shrugging up into the side of your head or your ear. You can bend the elbow to come deeper. If it's not okay for your hand to be up, your hand and arm to be up like this, you can always keep your hand at your hip. You're still opening, lengthening. The top arm will bring us up. I'm going to switch. I'm just going to come back to the middle because you will know what happens on the second side. We'll inhale up. And we'll exhale, left hand down, right arm up and over, coming into your stretch on this side. You decide where the head and neck turn. Make sure that it feels okay in your body. Stretching, opening, lengthening your right side body. You can also come into what I call little baby broken wing here. I have some issues in this shoulder, so sometimes this is a better spot for me, or even here. Let's come back up. We're going to inhale nice and tall. On the exhale, let's start to turn from the low belly, turning toward the right, left hand to right knee. Back hand either comes into the mat, or you just extend your arm out behind you if you're sitting on something tall that doesn't allow you to easily touch the floor. We don't want to sink into that back hand, arm, or shoulder. So make sure your torso is upright and your chest is open toward the side that you are twisting to. On your next exhale, we'll come out. Inhale here. Exhale, twisting to the left, starting with that low belly, upper belly, chest and shoulders. Your right hand comes to the left knee, your back hand behind you. Sitting tall, open. Next exhale, let's come out. If we're sitting cross-legged, we're going to switch the cross of the legs. If you're sitting another way, you're welcome to stay as you are, or maybe make an adjustment if you're in your seat, if that would be appropriate. We'll inhale our arms up again. On the exhale, the right hand will come down, left arm up and over, coming into our side stretch again. Noticing how it feels in this side. As we lean over to the right, the left sit bones may not feel as even in our support or on the mat. See if you can anchor the left sit bones a little bit more into the mat. Checking in with that bottom shoulder. Coming on down. Inhale up. Exhale, left hand down, right arm up and over, coming into our side stretch on this side. Coming back up. Arms back down by your sides. Let's come into that twist again. Inhale tall. Exhale, twist to the right. Left hand to the right knee, back hand into the mat. Torso is upright, tall and long. Chest is open. If you maybe want to go a little deeper, that head and neck can start to turn to look over that back shoulder. If that's too much, then you come back to the best spot for you. On your next exhale, we'll come out of our twist. Inhale tall. Exhale, twisting to the left. Low belly, upper belly, chest and shoulders, getting arms in a good spot, chest is open. And then if we're okay, we'll start to turn our head and neck to look over the back shoulder. Just because you did it on the first side doesn't mean you will on the second or vice versa. So check in. Make sure this spot is okay, that the whole back feels good in this twist. Next exhale will come out. We're going to inhale those arms up again. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. 2 more. Leading your movement with your breath. last one. Hands somewhere on the thighs. We'll do our curious dog tip. Bringing your right ear down toward the right shoulder. Giving a good stretch to this other side of the neck. Making sure that you're not shrugging that shoulder up, you keep it relaxed. And we're only moving the head and neck, so we're not leaning over to get there. Just the head and neck move, so it may not go very far. Coming back up to the other side. Coming back up. 2 more times each side. You decide how long you hold, maybe a couple rounds of breath for each side. But maybe one side of the neck needs a little more attention than the other, so you pay attention to that. Head comes back up to neutral. We're going to make our way onto all fours for some cat-cow. Depending on what your floor situation is, you may decide that you want to take your blanket or your towel and place it in the middle of your mat to support those knees. That's not something that I need, but I want to mention that. So make sure that the knees feel supported, they feel comfortable. We come into our tabletop here, making sure that our wrists are below our shoulders, our knees are below our hips, so our knees are not next to each other. They're a little bit apart, at least fist distance, but probably farther apart. If it really bothers you at this 90-degree angle on your wrist, you can always walk your hands a little bit forward. Our fingers are spread wide, and we're going to do some cat-cow here. So on your next exhale, we'll start to round that lower back, hollowing out the belly in the angry cat. And on your inhale, you'll reverse it, arching the back, belly down toward the mat, head and neck up slightly, chest is open in the cow. Making your way back to the cat, tucking the pelvis, bringing the body into flexion. Tilting the pelvis, coming into the cow. Coming into extension, a baby back bend. Let's do 2 more. Finishing up that last one. Once you're complete, neutral spine, head and neck. We're going to set up for our downward facing dog. So we step those hands a little bit forward, about half a foot. We curl our toes under, lift our knees up off the mat, pressing our butt, hip, and thighs as far away from the hands as we can. So if you want to make some movement here, pedaling the feet, wiggling out the hips. Maybe you pick a leg up and you wiggle that leg out. If you do one, you do the other. Our body is in a nice, long, inverted V. We're pressing our heels down toward the mat. That doesn't mean they need to touch. We can bend our knees a little bit. Keep the knees bent as you shoot your butt, hip, and thighs farther away from those hands. That'll take some of the weight out of the wrists. And that'll allow you to have more length and space in your spine. You can either bring your knees down to the mat, coming all the way down onto your belly, or you can come into a plank. If you do that, torso comes forward, shoulders right over the wrists, or if you're on your forearms, right over the elbows. No sway back here. So really lifting from that low belly, length and space in the spine, neck a continuation of the spine, breathing. From here, the knees can come down, coming down to the bellies, or bottom part of the push-up, making sure that we don't hurt the low back or low belly. So nice, long body. Setting up for our baby cobra, low bhujangasana. I'm going to adjust my body so that I'm facing forward so I can set up for my baby cobra, belly, baby back bend. So our arms, our hands are right under the shoulders. Arms are close to the sides. Your elbows pop up off the mat like cricket legs. Pressing the tops of your toes and feet in the mat. Curling up head, neck, and chest. Shoulder or elbows stay close by the sides so that your shoulder blades come down onto the rib cage. Our chest is open, pressing our pelvis into the mat. And breathing. Make sure that the chin is not jutting forward. The gaze is in front of the mat again. The neck is a continuation of the spine. Coming back down to the bellies. Resting for a moment. You can rest on a cheek or stack your palms, resting your forehead or chin on your hands. You can wiggle out your hips to release the low back. And from here, we'll press ourselves back into a child's pose. I'm going to transition myself again, so I'm back the other way on my mat. So for child's pose, you decide how wide your knees are. The big toes touch or come close together. We sit back on our heels. We drape our torso over our thighs, bringing our forehead down to the mat. If your head does not easily reach the mat, you can use your block or your books, your towel or your blanket under the head. Your arms can either be down by your sides, or maybe you extend the arms above your head on the mat. If child's pose is not appropriate for your body, you can roll over onto your back and hug your knees into your chest. From our child's pose, we're going to make our way back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Hands at the top of the mat, stepping those feet to the back of the mat, lengthen space in our spine. From your dog, you're going to make your way into a standing forward fold, Uttanasana. Hands can walk to feet, feet to hands, maybe a little bit of both, meeting in the middle. The knees can bend. Coming into our standing forward fold, making sure you're hinging at your hip creases. Your torso and spine are long, so that might mean that you need to bend your knees a little or a lot. If the hands don't easily touch the floor, you can use that block under your hands. If you don't have that, you can grasp opposite elbows. Relaxing the head and neck, shaking the head no, shaking the head yes. If you grasp opposite elbows, let's switch, bringing the other arm on top. May take a little brain work, may feel weird in the body. Just notice. We'll bring our hands to our hips, and we're slowly going to come up to standing. Coming all the way up, we're coming into our Tadasana, mountain pose. So our feet are about hip distance apart. How we figure that out is we feel around for the bony points in our hips. And if we could draw a line down our legs, the line would go right through the middle of our ankles, and that's hip distance apart. That's a pretty good spot for most of us, but some may need or want a wider stance, and some may need or want a shorter stance. You find the best spot for you, spreading those toes onto the mat. All four corners of our feet are even in the mat. Hips above those heels, shoulders above the hips, head and neck flow evenly over the shoulders. Arms come down by your sides. And your nice tall posture. Stacking the bones brings us to a natural, tall standing posture. May not feel natural because maybe you're like me, this is your regular posture. So I try to remind myself when I'm in the car, when I'm standing in line, to stack the bones. And then the muscles don't have to work as hard. We're going to come into our balance work. A tree pose, Vrikshasana. If you need to be by a wall, you make your way to a wall. Feet are even in the mat. Let's lean on over to our right foot. We're going to pick our left heel up. We're going to turn those toes out. You have three options for your foot. Your toes can stay on the mat, heel on the shin. The whole foot can come on the shin. We never put the foot on the knee, even though they're perfect for each other. They fit perfectly, but we want to keep that knee joint safe. Or if you can bring your foot to your thigh, you do that. But you have to make sure that your hips are square. So if you're wonky here in the hips or somewhere in the leg, maybe bring the leg lower. Make sure that this right hip is not popping off to the side. It's all coming to center, lifting from the low belly. The hands can stay at the hips, out to the side, at heart center, or maybe you grow those tree branches up toward the ceiling. We lock our gaze with something on the floor, and the breath keeps flowing. Hands will come together, down in front of the heart. We'll release that foot with control and give it a shake. Setting up for our second side, feet are even and parallel, rooted in that mat, leaning over to the left foot, picking the right heel up. You decide where your foot goes, maybe different on this side, and balance can be very different on one side versus the other. Make sure this hip isn't popping out, so we're pressing our foot into our leg as much as we press our leg into our foot, helping to bring everything up to grow through our trunk, and then you decide where your hands and arms go for your tree pose on this side. That bottom foot and leg feel grounded, Rooted, strong, and stable, or maybe not so much. Maybe it's a windy day for your tree. Maybe your tree has root rot. Being okay with whatever our balance is doing today. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Release that foot with control and give it a shake. We're going to come back down onto the mat, lying down on our backs with our knees bent, feet on the mat. Make sure that your blanket or block are nearby, but not too close, so maybe closer up toward your head. Coming to lie down in our constructive rest. Knees are bent, feet are on the mat. We're going to hug our knees into our chest and rock side to side if that feels good. Maybe you circle the knees. They can go in the same direction, opposite direction. Maybe you have your hands on top of your knees and you press your knees forward so that your arms straighten. You go back and forth. We're going to come into a reclined twist. We'll start to drop our knees over to the left. You decide how your upper body is. The arms can be up to the side. You could be in cactus arms. A hand can be on the knees. A hand can be on the chest, the belly, wherever you're comfortable here. Allowing your body to be heavy on the mat, not forcing anything down. Bring those knees back to center. And we'll go on over to the other side in our reclined twist. Make any adjustments you might need to. This pose can feel very different on one side versus the other. Body is heavy on the mat. Not forcing a shoulder down, the knees, the feet. If you need support under the knees or between the knees, you can always grab your block or blanket. Let's come back up, hugging those knees in again, rocking side to side. Feet will come back down, knees are bent, feet are on the mat. We're going to come into a supported bridge pose. If you do happen to have something on your head, I'm going to have you move it out of the way. We want to keep the natural curve of our neck as we come into our supported bridge. So if you're going to use a blanket, you'll just have to maneuver that blanket under your body. Or you use a book. Or if you have a block. So our feet are hip distance apart, a little bit from the knees. Pressing my feet into the mat, I'm going to lift my hips up, sliding that block that supports the sacrum, the tailbone, the hips, resting back down. So make sure that the block or your support is not at your low back. It's supporting the sacrum, the tailbone, the hips, the pelvis. Supported bridge, it should feel comfortable and supported. If it doesn't, then you make an adjustment. And if it's too much, then you come out of it. This is a baby back bend. It's an inversion because it is, or our heads are slightly below our hearts, which makes it an inversion. It's one of my favorite poses. And it feels great for all my low back issues. Pressing our feet into the mat again, lifting those hips up, slide the block out of the way. Whatever support you're using, bringing your hips back down to the mat. Rolling over to your side in the fetal position. The strength of your hands and arms, coming back up to seated. We're going to come back into a seated position to end our practice. If you would like to do a Shavasana, a final relaxation pose, feel free to pause the video and come into a 5 or 10 minute Shavasana. Shavasana can just be lying out on your mat, legs out long, arms out to the side, hands on the chest or the belly. Or maybe you like more support and you know how to set up. So we'll come back into our seated position. That's my habitual side. I'm going to go to my other side. So make sure that we're sitting tall and we're comfortable. So coming into whatever seated position is comfortable for you. Last weekend I did a kids yoga online workshop, which was awesome. Helped me prepare for a class I taught earlier this week. But I learned a lot of things, stuff for kids, stuff that I can use for my adult classes. And this is a new thing I'm bringing in. I just really love it and I think it's beautiful. So we're going to bring our hands to heart center. You can say this in your head or you can say it out loud with me as well. Kind hearts. We move our hands to our mouth. Kind words. Moving the hands to the forehead. Kind thoughts. Let's inhale up. Exhale, arms down. Hands will come back to heart center. We'll do that 2 more times. Kind hearts, kind words, kind thoughts. 1 more time, hands at heart center. Kind hearts, kind words, kind thoughts. Inhale up, exhale down. Bring our hands somewhere on our legs, comfortable, closing our eyes or having a soft gaze. Noticing how the breath feels now, how the body feels from when we first started. Maybe the mind has calmed down a little bit. We'll bring our hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra. At heart center, pressing your right hand into your left as much as you press your left into your right. Thumbs lightly but firmly press against the sternum or heart center. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Keep peace in the mind, strength in the body, and love in the heart. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Again, I'd appreciate any feedback. I'm aware of some of the issues, more of the technical issues that are going on with these videos, and there is plans to change that. It's just going to take some time, equipment, extra energy. So it'll definitely happen, but I'd love any sort of input that you want to give me. Wow, so I thought this video was going to take 15 to 20. It's almost 30 on my camera. So there we go. Takes a lot longer to teach something that I can do in about 10 minutes. It takes almost 30 to teach it. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can email me, Ann, at gofitgirl.com. I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram as The Real Go Fit Girl, because apparently there are a lot of Go Fit girls, but I am the real one. So feel free to email me, to talk to me on social media. You can also comment on my YouTube video below. Wherever you need to get a hold of me, please do. And I hope you have a lovely day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.